Alright, so I had my armor testing video taken down. If you're a YouTube moderator, please don't take this video down. This information can literally save people's lives because there's a misrepresentation of armor plate currently in armor testing videos. Basically what's going on is they will get their armor plate, they will run up to, what it's rated for, whatever caliber that happens to be, and then they will take calibers that don't have a snowball chance in hell at going through the plate, and they will shoot the plate with that and get excited like, oh, colored me impressed like that. I can't believe it stopped that right. They knew from the beginning, before they even pulled the trigger, that there was no way that caliber was going through that particular plate. You hit a plate with a 45-70, a 12 gauge, a 338 Lapua Magnum flying at low velocities, like under a certain velocity, no, it's not going to go through. You fire a 243 100 grain, it's not going to go through. Now you change that to like a 243 55 grain, that's a different story. Because plates are velocity sensitive. And if you didn't see my first video, unfortunately I'm just going to show little clips from there just to prove what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to show the whole thing because I don't want to get taken down. And if I get another video taken down or like a strike, I'm just going to stop uploading for like 90 days because you can only get 3 strikes within 90 days and then your channel gets deleted. So this is the end result. First thing I did is I test the coating because that's important. With armor plate, it's very important that the coating holds because otherwise, yes, it stops the bullet, but the bullet, you can't, the energy has to be transferred somewhere. So those little pieces of lead will come flying up, and if they hit you in the bottom of the chin, that could be fatal. So why am I so concerned with velocities on plates? Hunting cartridges. That's why you never see them test hunting cartridges against plates, except for like a 45-70, something that has no chance at going through. Because hunting cartridges, as we all know, are exponentially more powerful than your AR-15 or AK-47. They usually just test up to like an AR-15 or an AK-47 because most armor can stop that. Relatively speaking, the hardest one to stop is M193 because of the velocity, depending on what M93 you were running. This particular plate stopped PMC M193 because for whatever reason they loaded that M193 really, really cold and it only exits a 28-inch barrel at 2,800 feet per second. 2808. So it does not break the velocity rating of that particular plate. So for your standard, like, out on the street, maybe law enforcement officer or something like that, that plate would be totally fine. You're just not going to run into hunting rifles in some sort of force-on-force threat. It's just not going to happen. They won't. They'll have an AR-15 or an AK or something like that, and that plate is more than capable, which this plate was sent to me by RTS Tactical to test, more than capable of stopping those types of cartridges. Where it becomes a problem is if you buy armor plates because you're hunting on public land and you're worried about somebody with a hunting rifle accidentally shooting you. Because that plate will most definitely get defeated by hunting cartridges. For example, I think it's this shot and this shot was shot with this 45 grain 243. Why did that pass through but M855 and that particular brand of M193 would not? Because this plate has a velocity rating, which I'm guessing is somewhere just short of 3,200 feet per second. Anything flying faster than that will pop through this. These are 55 grain 243. They went through with little problem. Now, you got to understand too when I say go through. The projectile isn't actually going through. The projectile hits the plate and it splatters. But it vibrates the plate hard enough to where it actually takes a chunk of the plate and turns it into a projectile and it accelerates out the back. Now I have a bunch of people argue with me with that constantly, but if you'll notice in this clip right here, you will see my GoPro lens getting shattered because I was roughly like 25, 30 yards away from that plate. I had my GoPro set up really close to that plate so you could see it. Well, this protective layer was already off of it. So when I hit it, the projectile exploded, and the stuff coming off of the plate shattered my GoPro. But now, watching this clip right here, I go to the back of the tires, and you can see that the projectiles that are coming out of that plate actually punch through the tires. Here, let me show you that real quick. So it went through both sides of the plate and through both sides of the tire. So if anybody says that the 45 grain isn't enough, you know, enough energy left over after it goes through the plate to cause damage, well, it went through both sides of the tire. I assume that's more than enough to cause damage. So yeah, they definitely have enough force to injure and or kill you should you get shot with a hunting cartridge. We're talking like a 270 that's a 140 grain or less. A 223 that's like 45 grain or less. Did I say 243? 243 that's like 70 grain or less. I don't know exactly how low you can go. I think like 65 is about the velocity rating on it. Or a 223 that's 45 grain or less because the velocity is too high. There's two ways that you penetrate a plate. Where's my knife? Oh, here it is. Number one, velocity. Number two, the bullet's composition. For example, even level 4 plate will have a velocity limit on it. I don't know what that velocity is because, like I said, no one tests it. They'll just throw cartridges at those plates that have no chance at going through it and be like, oh, that's so amazing, instead of busting out the hunting rifles that are super high velocity and seeing where it stops at. I'm guessing, I don't know, because I have to get a bunch of level 4 plates to test it. I'm guessing the velocity is somewhere north of 4,000 feet per second. So if you can't get the velocity required to go through the plate, what you do is you go with a different bullet composition. So then instead of the bullet hitting and splattering and turning the plate itself into a projectile, it will actually go through. For example, like what would be a good example? Tungsten carbide. That's harder than the metal. So you basically need a projectile that's harder than the plate itself. And the projectile will actually cut its way through and go into the object. Now that's not a real big issue with hunting, so generally speaking, if you're looking for hunting plates, level 4 will do the job. Now, when you're talking about like something that will stop anything, there's nothing that will stop anything. I could accelerate a grain of sand. If I could accelerate a grain of sand fast enough, it'll punch through a battle tank. That's how come, like, when a tornado goes through a town, you'll see 2x4s into a concrete wall. You're like, well, how did that happen? And then there's grass stuck into the concrete. And that's not harder than the concrete. However, they get it going fast enough to where it hits and it penetrates in. So, I thought maybe I would test level 3 ceramic because I've seen several videos where these things perform to where they're just stopping everything that's thrown at it. I took 2 shots before I got a pass through. One was this 45 grain 223. It was hit somewhere like right in here. That didn't pass through, but it did bulge out the back really, really bad. Like, it was very close to passing through. So probably like a 40 grain or a 35 grain 223 would pass through this. The plate is completely screwed. It almost passed through. It barely stopped that 45 grain 223. Huge bulge in the back. I'll try to aim in a different spot and we'll hit it with the shredder. Then I hit it right here with the 243, and it exited right here by the S and the T. Alright, so the shredder, something came through. There's a hole in the back. I don't know if it was the entire projectile, but it did not completely stop it. It stopped most of it though, but dude, check out that bulge. No, it went through. I can see a hole through it. Yeah, right there on the S and the T, that's where it came out. Alright, so just to prove that slow velocity projectiles literally have like no effect on these plates, we're going to hit it with a 308, we'll put that right there, and we'll put a 12 gauge slug right through here, and they won't go through. Even though they're like, well, in the case of the 308, 3 times heavier than the shredder projectile, and in the 12 gauge slug, like infinitely heavier than the shredder projectile. Because they're moving slower, they're just not. And that was the second shot. And then just to prove my point that velocity does matter, I hit this with 308, 12 gauge, a bunch of other stuff, and it stopped all of it. However, the 243, one shot went through. Yet it still caught the 308. Absolutely no effect on this plate. So it basically was already hitting in a compromised spot, but it still did not get a pass through. The only thing that's went through so far is the shredder. And for those of you asking, no, I'm not going to be keeping the sling. This is just a temporary sling. But I'm going to try to put the 12 gauge right in the middle where the plate's really compromised, and I bet you it still stops this slug. Right in the center, this plate is completely shot. That was nowhere near called a fair hit, and yet it still caught the slug. That's relevant, again, if you hunt. Level 3 is not going to cut it if you're trying to wear armor because you're out in the woods hunting. When you start throwing hunting cartridges against these plates, they fail miserably. You got to go up to level 4. And again, I don't know what the velocity rating is on level 4, and there is one. If you can accelerate just a standard projectile fast enough, which I don't know what that velocity is, it will in fact go through a level 4. Or a slower projectile with an actual hardened steel core. Like something around an RC of like 70 or something like that. That will cut through those because they're harder than the steel. So it'd be like taking my finger and pushing through a piece of paper. So as long as you got enough momentum, it will push that hardened projectile through. And I apologize I can't show all the detailed footage of this. Again, I'm pretty terrified that I'm going to wind up getting a video taken down and or a strike. And that's bad. So, what have we learned? 1, armor plates when they're being tested are currently being misrepresented. Yes, there's a couple of good channels like Buff Guy Review. He understands what it takes to make armor fail, and then he'll just build on top of that until he gets it to fail, so you can find out exactly what velocity or what type of projectile it would take to go through that armor, so you can make better buying decisions to get an armor better suited for what you're looking for. But most of them, the most dangerous thing, the most biggest threat they'll throw at those is M193. When it comes to armor penetrating, 45 grain 223 runs circles around M193. And then after that, after they shoot it with a bunch of crap that's never going to go through, then they'll hit it with an actual AP round just to show that they went through. And because AP rounds aren't readily available, at least not for an affordable price, most people are like, oh, that's nothing to worry about. But if they would have pulled out the hunting rifles with proper ammunition in it, yeah, they would have busted right through those plates. So, again, when going against hunting rifles, like if you're wearing body armor out in the woods, it's pointless unless you're going to wear level 4. If you're not going to wear level 4, just keep the plate off and maybe you'll get a cleaner pass through your body and you'll survive from it. Level 3 is just not going to cut it. Not at all. I don't know what the velocity rating is on level 4, but level 3 plus, this sheet is AR 600. That is roughly alright, that's 1/8, so that'd be 2/16, 3/16. Just short of a quarter. Just short of a 1/4 inch thick. And that's top quality steel. That's about as good as it gets. And I totally forgot where I was going with this. Anyway, level 3 plus ceramic or level 3 plus steel is ineffective against hunting cartridges. They will pass through it. You got to go to level 4. I don't know what the velocity rating is on level 4, but level 3, this is about 3,200 feet per second. You get up to 33 and you're at risk of a pass through. This is somewhere around 36 or 3,700 feet per second. The shredder passed through it, but that has velocity jumps. The lowest it usually goes is about 3,600 feet per second, but it climbs up to all the way to 39. I intended on having a chronograph so I could actually measure the velocity of the shot that goes through it, but my tripod broke, so I only had a camera tripod, so I don't know the velocity it takes to take down level 3 ceramic, but it's up there. It's getting close to 4,000 feet per second. So if I had to pick between level 3 steel or level 3 ceramic, myself, I would go to level 3 ceramic. Just because it's got a higher velocity rating, or at least this company does. Which I don't know what company this is. LA Police Gear. And with it being 25 yards away, it was probably struck at least minimum 3,600 feet per second, but probably a little bit closer to like 37 or 3,800 feet per second. Where this was struck, because this is 3,600 feet per second on the box, but that's probably out of a 24-inch barrel, it doesn't say, and I was shooting out of a 20, probably like 35-50 or something like that, and they were passing through without a problem. Or I shouldn't say passing through, they were exploding and making a new projectile. But at that same velocity, this plate caught it. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really hope this video don't get taken down, YouTube moderator, because this is serious information that could seriously save people's lives. Like to help support the channel, got my Patreon right there. I'll also have affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links, even if you don't buy what the link is for, just click on that, do the Amazon shopping you're going to do anyway, and I'll get a little kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.